The question isn't whether or not this is a good Spider-Man movie, but whether or not this is the best Spider-Man movie we've ever seen. Well, let's get into it. What's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and I just got home from watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which of course is a sequel to the previous animated Spider-Man film, Into the Spider-Verse. And I want to share some of my thoughts with you to let you know whether or not this is a movie that you should go see in theaters. Spoilers, it is. So if that kind of thing sounds cool to you and you want to see more movie reviews just like this, make sure you subscribe. Now, as I do with all of my movie reviews, I'm going to go over a little bit of information about the movie in general, because I'm a giant nerd and I like to know all that information about who's making the movie. Then we'll go into my pros and cons, and then finally, who I recommend this movie for. Now, of course, there's a million reviews of this movie already out there, so I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know, but just to get you caught up to speed, as I mentioned, this is a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, and just like that movie, this one is brought to you by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and it stars Shameik Moore as Miles Morales, Hailee Steinfeld as Gwen Stacy, and in this particular movie, Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099, who is one of my favorite Spider-Men of all time. There's also a bunch of other characters and actors and actresses in this movie. It is a wild cast, not only based on who is performing as the actors and actresses, but the actual characters themselves. There are so many fun, unique characters from the comic books in this movie that I would be here all day if I tried to go through all of them. Now, a quick plot summary off of IMDb. It says here, Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. Not exactly sure what that last part means, but either way, it's cool. So let's go ahead and get started with my pros, and there are quite a few. For one, if you are, or if you have been a Spider-Man fan at any time in your life, I'm talking movies, comic books, video games even, there is a treasure trove of Easter eggs in this movie for you. And I mean so many that you simply cannot catch them all in one viewing. Those sneaky bastards are gonna make me buy this Blu-ray, I just know it. But you know what? I will gladly do. In almost every scene, you're seeing either a Spider-Man callback to an old comic book or an old movie, or again, even an old video game, or current video games for that matter. There's little references and nods here and there. They do this thing where it's kind of like a comic strip where at the very bottom, there's a note that sometimes gets flashed on the screen so quickly you can't catch it. So again, this is a movie you're gonna have to go back and watch a number of times if you wanna get all of those little nods. But even with all of those Easter eggs, all of that fan service, that's not all the movie is. It is not just fan service. It is not just nods to the audience. They're just kind of a beautiful little bonus. The movie also does something that I really didn't consider until I left the theater and got into my car to drive home. And that is that it tells this massive story, as you might expect, about the Spider-Verse, but then it grounds it all in these really strong interpersonal relationships. Yes, you're dealing with all of this multiverse, universe-ending stuff, but the family drama between Miles and his parents, or Gwen Stacy and her father, is just as captivating as all of the grand scale stuff. Also, kind of in line with that dichotomy, the main villain in this movie, which is a character named Spot, who really comes across as just a cheesy villain. They even make jokes about him being the villain of the week, but then they take him and make him truly frightening. So again, you have that almost polarization of something that's seemingly small becoming something incredibly massive. That's what she said. Anyway, also talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I can't not mention the animation. Now, Into the Spider-Verse, the original, was a visually stunning film, without a doubt. And this movie blows it out of the water. I know that might be a controversial statement, but the contrasting art styles mixed with the absolutely wild action scenes and the way they animate them, I mean, I can't possibly imagine where they can go from here with the medium of animation. This is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and I'm not exaggerating on that. It honestly reminds me of, if you're a big anime fan like I am, you know, you have your shows like your Dragon Balls and your Narutos and all the shonen stuff, the action shows, where most of the episodes, it's just kind of basically animated. You have a character standing on screen talking to another character standing on screen, but then every now and then they'll have these fight scenes that are animated so incredibly well that they become almost like legendary video clips on the internet for years to come. You know, think about Rock Lee versus Gaara in Naruto. Well, this movie is beyond that level of animation, except the entire time. It is a highlight reel of an anime cranked up to 11 for 2.5 hours. I think that's the best way I can describe how well it's animated. But, you know, in addition to the action, the heart, there's humor in this movie. A lot of humor in this movie. Honestly, maybe too much. There was a guy sitting right next to me who had the most obnoxious laugh I've ever heard in my life. But even that did not ruin the movie for me. There's definitely tons of jokes, but they don't overstay their welcome. When you're supposed to feel in this movie, you feel. But when you're supposed to laugh, just make sure you're not taking a sip of your drink because it's gonna go everywhere. And as I mentioned before, the movie is almost 2.5 hours long, which for a lot of movies can feel just too long, but not here. They pace everything so well. I didn't look at my watch once. And then as the movie was wrapping up to its conclusion, I wanted more. Honestly, they could have started the next film in the series right then, and I wouldn't have even blinked. I was ready for another 2.5 hours. Another thing I love about this movie is how relatable they are. And I know, none of us are superheroes or none of us have spider powers, but that's not what this movie is really about. I mean, at its core, it's a family story and a coming of age story. It's all about growing and learning and losing. And well, we're all losers. No, that's not, never mind. You know what I mean. But yes, this movie is expertly crafted. The action, the animation, the heart, the comedy, the characters. There's so much to love here and so much to glean from every scene in this movie. But there are a couple of little negatives that I have. So let's get into my cons real quick. For one, this is very clearly a part 1 of 2. And if I'm being honest, and please don't flame me for this, but I feel like they didn't handle that aspect as well as they could have. You know, I think of movies like Avengers Infinity War. Clearly another part 1 of 2, but the end of that movie feels like just that, an end to a movie. But with Across the Spider-Verse, it really feels more like a next time on Spider-Man. So much so that I almost didn't even believe that the movie was over. Now, thankfully, we only have to wait, I think, 9 more months for the next movie to come out, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I left the theater feeling a little unsatisfied with the ending, even though the entire movie was absolutely incredible. Also, being a part 1 of 2, you might expect that we're going to be left with a bit of a cliffhanger, which we are. There's, you know, of course, something that needs to be solved in the next movie, but something I don't think that they should have done in the way they did was they presented a solution to one of the major problems in this movie. So I feel like unless something drastically changes, that's pretty much where we're going to go with the next one. It kind of let a little bit of the air out of the balloon, if you know what I mean. Now, again, that might not be the route they go with the next movie, but to me, it definitely seems like it. Also, last up, they did the Scarlet Spider dirty in this movie, and he's one of my favorites. So that's not necessarily a negative of the movie, but justice for Ben. But look, despite those couple of little nitpicks, this movie is phenomenal. It is, without a doubt, one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. Now, is it the best? I don't know if I can say that. You'll have to wait for my ranking of the Spider-Man movies, which will be coming very soon. If you want to see that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. But I will say it is very, very good, and it is a must-watch for anyone who is a Spider-Man fan, a comic book fan, or just an action or animation fan. This takes the genre to another level, and I have no doubt that it's going to be nominated for a ton of awards. But as with all movies, this is not going to be for everyone. So who do I recommend this movie for? Well, I already touched on if you're into art, animation, action, comic books, any of that, you're going to love this movie. But if you didn't like kind of the frenetic energy of the first film, or if you're someone who prefers slower, more contemplative movies, this is probably not for you. It does come up for air from time to time, but a large portion of this movie is coming at you a mile a minute. So if that's not your vibe, that's cool. Otherwise, I think this is a movie for everyone. So definitely get out to theaters to check it out. But of course, these are just my thoughts, my opinions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you seen Across the Spider-Verse? Did you love it as much as I did? What are your pros and cons? Drop down to the comments and let me know those. And of course, if you want to see more movie reviews, trailer reactions, ranking videos, all that good stuff, make sure you subscribe. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Be good.